even already this week, it's Monday morning, and already it seems like economic development is off to a shaky start because of the Syrian conflict right now. And we were talking about this briefly before, but you know, it's crazy that even this one little strike could really affect New Mexico because it's putting off budget negotiations right now. The entire debate in Washington this week and next week is going to be about Syrian conflict, and at the end of the month is when the next vote on the government shutdown could happen. And we know that federal jobs in New Mexico are a big deal. And Sandia Labs alone is responsible for $640 million in state taxes. And if we're looking at even more furloughs and even more problems because of that, we could really be stuck. And it's kind of it's a rough thing. And already this week, it's part of the debate.
So you're saying that the budget at Sandia, Los Alamos, other facilities like that,
Holloman,
will all
U.S.
be
Forest
sort
Service.
of in suspension.
Yeah, Forest Service, any federal job, any federal agency
So
in the state.
nothing moves forward, nothing happens.
Not these guys are fighting about Syria right now. So it's the vote is scheduled for the end of the month in Congress, and that has impacts on food stamps, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. You know, the EBT debit cards that people use to get food. That's all tied up in that. We're already facing furloughs, and we're already facing sequestration in the state. It's already hurting us pretty badly.
Right.
And if those debates are put off into even another month, we could be really stuck again. And that's kind of the crux of what we're writing about at the Business First, is trying to tell people there are ways to create these economic-based jobs outside of the federal government world, and we're trying to expose people to those kinds of things.
But that's the issue in New Mexico. What, about 60%, at least 60% people working in New Mexico work for federal jobs?
Or work for state, city, and or federal government. Yeah, absolutely. And so when this stuff happens on a federal level, it really affects us. And so lots of people, including the state right now, are trying to improve the state's, you call them economic-based jobs, the jobs that bring in money from out of the state,
Right.
And right now the big thing is the Jobs Council, which we got a story on this week.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of scary big numbers. So local economist Mark Lautman came in and said, okay, we need to create these jobs. We're facing big problems, such as government shutdowns. And Lautman says, we come up with a number. So we sat down with a bipartisan commission and says, we need to figure out how many jobs we need to get. They decided they needed 160,000 economic-based jobs. And these are not necessarily call center jobs, they're not retail jobs, these are manufacturing jobs, these are jobs that bring in new money. The problem is we need 160,000 new jobs over the next 10 years to get us to where we were in 2007.
Oh, wow.
And that's
6 years ago.
Gotten that
6 years
bad,
ago. That's how bad it is.
6 years.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so these guys right now are trying to figure it out. And they're meeting this week in Roswell to discuss what can we do about this. What sectors do we need to attack, and how do we attack them, and how do we grow them? And when you're trying to get 160,000 jobs, it's mind blowing.
In your opinion, Dan, is this Jobs Council a window dressing, or is this a real working group that's tasked with getting something done?
It's both. It actually is both. So these guys, they're tasked with getting something done, but it's going to be a framework and not a plan. And when it comes to how the state government does its work, there's a subtle difference. When you say we have a plan, it's something we get to vote on. When you say we have a framework, it's something next time an aviation bill comes up before the Senate, they will vote towards this framework rather than saying we need to do X, Y, and Z to improve this sector. So it's a little bit of both. And they're hoping that they can really build momentum on that and make it something bigger and more important.
And I feel like that's one of the biggest issues is we talk a lot about how New Mexico needs more economic development, but nothing is getting done.
There's a lot, there is a lot getting done, and it seems like a lot of it's just under the radar. And a lot of it is actually outside of New Mexico that we don't, outside Albuquerque, we don't realize what is going on. The USDA Rural Administration is doing a whole lot right now. Terry Bruner's actually, $2.9 billion in loan guarantees over the last 4 years for rural projects. We just don't see it here in Albuquerque as much, The state's been spending JTIP money, which is it's jobs training money that goes right now to basically anybody that is creating one of these economic-based jobs.
Right.
And millions have gone into that. The Main Street programs are really developing outside of Albuquerque. And then in Albuquerque, there are plans, there's a lot of recruitment and a lot of retention work right now. Even though we're still trying to build things, we still have to maintain and really retain the jobs and the companies we have, which is even scarier. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
even like the spaceport, and now we have some competition, other places.
other places have spaceports. Ours, we're actually in really great shape, though. I have a feeling that, Elon Musk's SpaceX is there,
Yeah.
as well as Richard Branson's company is there. And when you got two of the biggest names in the world in business setting up shop in your place, that's not too bad, at least in my opinion. It's almost like if we had, Microsoft and Apple setting up shop somewhere. I mean, that in the space world, that is what that's
They're
like.
the Microsoft and
Yeah,
Apple of
they are.
private space
Absolutely.
exploration.
The problem is that the Microsoft and Apple of private space circa 1979. They're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Branson hasn't started flying anybody yet, and when that happens, that will be a big step. They're doing testing right now in Mojave, and they're getting there with it. And SpaceX is bringing it's this crazy thing. It's called the Grasshopper, and it's a vertical and takeoff landing
Yeah,
rocket.
we showed that.
Yeah.
You had the video a couple weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah, and they've really developed that technology, and they're getting that down to where they can do it all the time. And
Absolutely.
make that thing go up and down and sideways and what have you.
It's amazing. It can just dance in the air.
Yeah.
And to have that kind of thing here is great. The problem is it's still years off.
Yeah.
We're still 3 or 4 years down the line before we actually get to see that stuff being practical, and bringing a lot of jobs. Right now, this weekend actually, the guys from Virgin Galactic had a career fair, but it was in their Mojave office, not their Albuquerque
It was
office.
for engineers to build things out there.
Absolutely.
Facility.
Yeah.
But a lot of that will transfer over here once they start doing this on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Their headquarters is still in Las Cruces.
Yes.
So it's great, and then that dovetails right into the state's plans with the railway down there, which is a $350 billion investment by Union Pacific into building that spur line between Las Cruces and Los Angeles, and then from Las Cruces out to Chicago, and that'll make that port even bigger at Santa Teresa. It should be huge when that finally gets done.
Yeah.
And Albuquerque now, Randy Trask, who's the director of the Trade Association here, the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Trade Alliance, and others are really trying to work on that to make Albuquerque this secondary trade hub. We have the rail, we have the air. If we can just get that border crossing kind of element in there, then we have all three. Then we'll be able to basically take any kind of anything that comes from the south to anywhere in the States.
I want to jump to another topic,
Absolutely.
and I don't even know what this is. What is additive manufacturing?
Oh, additive manufacturing is one of my favorite things. I've been writing quite a bit about it this week.
Yeah, and bring me up to speed here.
3D printing.
Oh,
And it's the whole technical jargony term is additive manufacturing. And 3D printers, for those that don't know, are basically printers. They work kind of like your office printer that prints on paper, except they can print metal or plastic or food.
Yeah.
pretty neat.
And now bones and cartilage and this amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been writing about it this week because several things have happened in the industry. Sandia National Labs actually developed this technology that allows you to print metal. And it's not just one kind of metal, it's two kinds of metal. So you can make a pleated piece of something, which is an amazing next generation tech. And it's already being picked up by cell phone manufacturers to make antennas and other little parts for cell phones.
Wow.
And you just basically put a plastic piece in a printer and the thing prints you all your circuit board. And there's a local company called Optimec that's really doing amazing work with that. And there's some guys out of Santa Fe called Six Sigma that are doing the software to make those processes actually work. It's one thing to have the printer, but it's another thing to have the software that tells the printer what to do. So the guys in Santa Fe are doing that based on Los Alamos National Lab Tech. And we got a big story running this Friday on additive manufacturing and 3D printing, and how local guys are using it to prototype, make awesome things, from jewelry to even building forms. You can actually print concrete now with these things. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
And all the way up to very, very high-tech circuit boards that these printers are making. And they're getting to the point now that you can actually manufacture with them. They were only good for prototyping before because they're slow and expensive.
Yes.
But now, thanks to this technology that Sandia National Labs developed, it's fast enough and cheap enough that you can actually do something that is.
That's going to explode in the next several
That
years.
is.
It is. And
The
it's one of those-
biomedical stuff is fascinating.
It's amazing because
Yeah.
they're now
You
able
can
to
do
take.
tissue and things.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're printing noses and ears.
Uh-huh.
So you can. It blows my mind what you can do. And then
Yeah.
now there's research into spray-on skin using the same technology.
Whoa.
So burn victims, that anybody,
Sure.
even plastic surgery, it's amazing the stuff you can do with it right now. And additive manufacturing is kind of the overarching.
Now I know what the term means.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm trying to expose people to that because you say 3D printing, and in your mind you think that chunky jewelry, that you've seen on
More
TV.
basic, yeah.
Yeah, but when you say manufacturing, it's a big deal.
Yeah.